Michael's loss and the terrifying question of what form it takes. Let us start with Michael, because the spoilers for this week are clear that he is facing a significant loss, and the question of what form that loss takes is going to determine everything about the storylines that follow. The loss that everybody is hoping and praying does not happen is the worst possible one. Wiley and Amelia in the car with an impaired Willow. The images that scenario produces are not ones anyone wants to sit with. A mother who loves her children, who has no idea she has been drugged, who is doing what any parent would do on a fun afternoon with their kids, getting behind the wheel and putting all of them in danger, through no conscious fault of her own. The children who could be hurt. The aftermath of that for Michael, who would have to live with the knowledge that something connected to his world. Jacinda's decision, the pills that trace back to situations he was not even present for, contributed to harm coming to the people he loves most. We know Willow survives the week. The spoilers make that clear. She is present in the story going forward. But surviving and being unharmed are not the same thing. And the children's safety through all of this is the question that has the whole audience on edge. The scenario that is being floated, and it has the terrible logic of real life behind it, is that if there is a collision on that road, the people who are harmed are not necessarily the ones in the impaired vehicle. The cruelest mathematics of impaired driving situations is exactly what the spoilers reference. The person behind the wrong wheel often walks away unscathed while the people they encounter do not. If Jacinda's path and Willow's path cross on that road, if there is a collision between them, the children in Willow's car might be okay. Willow might be okay. And Jacinda might not walk away at all. A coma for Jacinda is the Port Charles version of that outcome. Not death. Death is final and forecloses stories that have not been fully told. But a coma is the dramatic limbo that this show has historically used when a character needs to be removed from active storytelling without the permanent closure of a death. It leaves things open. It creates ongoing stakes. It means the people connected to Jacinda have to live with uncertainty rather than grief, which in many ways is harder than grief. Michael losing Jacinda, either to death or to a coma, to an outcome that takes her out of his life in a way he did not choose, would be the loss that the spoilers are pointing toward. Not Wiley, not Amelia, but the woman who entered his life with genuine care for him and who made a decision that was terrible and wrong, and that came from that same genuine care in the most misdirected way possible. The pills are the other thread that Michael has to follow. With the other two pills still in Jacinda's purse and Michael now knowing about the drugging, the question of whether he looks for them, whether curiosity or concern or the specific pattern recognition of someone who grew up watching addiction destroy a parent sends him into her things, is a real one. Michael has his own complicated relationship to substances and to the people who have struggled with them in his family. Finding those pills and holding them in his hand, knowing what they were used for, knowing they trace back through a chain that goes through Ezra, through Nina, through Portia, through a history that predates anything Michael was involved in. That is a moment that puts information in his hands that he cannot unfind. The origin of those pills is significant. They were used to drug Drew in a situation that Nina and Portia arranged, which means the chain of custody for these specific substances connects people in ways that have legal and personal implications extending well beyond Jacinda's decision to use them on Willow. Michael finding them and understanding what he is holding is Michael suddenly in possession of a thread that could unravel several situations that have been carefully managed until now. What he does with that thread, whether he keeps it, uses it, reports it, or simply holds it as information in the ongoing custody battle, is one of the most consequential decisions Michael is going to make in the coming days. He has been a man of strategy and patience this entire summer. This is the moment where strategy and patience are going to be tested by the very human impulse to use what you find when you find it. Willow surviving the week is the silver lining in a situation with very little silver in it. But the losses accumulating around her, around the people connected to her, around the children who are growing up in the middle of this war, those losses are real, and they're going to continue shaping what this family looks like for a long time. Valentine and Windermere and the question of whether Carly becomes its next queen. Now, let us talk about Valentine and the castle, because this storyline is one of those situations where the romantic development and the dramatic complication are wrapped around each other in a way that makes them impossible to separate. Valentine wants Windermere back. That is not a new desire. It is a consistent one that has been present through everything that has happened this summer, through his fugitive status and his time under Carly's roof, and his deals with Brennan, and the ongoing management of situations that have kept him from being able to focus on what he actually wants. Windermere is home in the specific way that a place can be home for someone who did not have easy access to home for much of their life. It is where Charlotte feels most herself. It is where Valentine feels most himself. And with Jen's assets on their way to being auctioned off, the path back to Windermere is becoming visible. Charlotte wants to go back. She has been clear about this. Whatever turbulence has defined her teen years in this current chapter, the complicated feelings about Lulu, the situation with Gio that has been producing its own specific kind of longing and drama, the general Cassadine princess-daughter complexity of her existence, being at Windermere would provide a stability that she has been missing. The castle is hers in the way that places become yours when you grow up in them, when your earliest memories are formed in their rooms and hallways. She wants to go home. Lulu's condition for Charlotte spending meaningful time with Valentine was that he provide a real home. Not a hotel suite. Not someone else's space. A home. Windermere satisfies that condition completely and in a way that no alternative would match. But Carly does not want to be anywhere near that island. The reasons are understandable, and they are not small. What happened there, the captivity, Jocelyn's involvement, the specific horror of what the summer produced in that castle, has left a mark on how Carly relates to that place. The creepiness she references is not aesthetic. It is specific and personal and tied to experiences that reasonable people do not simply shake off because the person who created them is now incarcerated. And yet, Carly is falling harder for Valentine every day. That is not a hypothetical or a guess. It is something the story has been building carefully and visibly since they started navigating their complicated situation together. Whatever began as Carly doing the right thing by someone who needed help has evolved into something real and mutual and genuinely felt on both sides. The relationship has depth. It has history. It has the specific texture of something that was not designed to be romantic and became romantic anyway because the people involved are who they are and the circumstances were what they were. When relationships reach a certain depth, the practical arrangements of shared life become necessary discussions. And the practical arrangement that comes after Windermere is reclaimed is, where do Valentine and Carly live? Do they continue separately? Does the relationship formalize itself into something that involves them sharing a space? And if so, does that space end up being the castle that Carly is currently convinced she wants nothing to do with? Charlotte settling in at Windermere is the mechanism through which this decision might change. Because a child who is happy in her home, who has settled into the stability that the castle provides, is a child whose life is better when the adults around her stop making the living situation a constant negotiation. And Carly, who is not someone who prioritizes her own comfort over the well-being of children she cares about, is going to find that harder to dismiss than she might anticipate. The history of Windermere on this show is long, and it is never entirely peaceful. The island has a quality that draws drama to it, that creates conditions for the kind of chaos that Port Charles excels at producing. Every era of Windermere ownership has generated its own specific brand of mayhem. And Carly, if she eventually agrees to be there, if she eventually accepts the castle as the place where her life with Valentine unfolds, is walking into a history that is going to continue generating new chapters. That is not necessarily a reason not to go. People in Port Charles rarely avoid anything simply because it has been difficult before. The difficulty is part of the story. And a Carly who becomes the new anchoring presence at Windermere, who brings her specific kind of fierce and practical love to a place that has historically been defined by the cold and calculating variety, that Carly is a genuinely interesting character development. One that the show appears to be moving toward carefully rather than announcing immediately. The flash drive is still in a drawer somewhere. Whatever is on it, Brick believed it would eventually change Carly's relationship to Valentine. That ticking element does not disappear simply because things are going well right now. It waits for the moment when its contents are most disruptive. And a Carly who has moved into Windermere, who has built something real there, who has made a home out of a place that was difficult for her, is more vulnerable to that disruption than a Carly who is still holding back. Port Charles and love stories that feel solid always carry that specific undercurrent. The more certain the happiness looks, the more carefully the show is usually building toward the thing that tests it.